You don't let the fire go out.
Okay.
A lot of people do not realize they need to guard the fire.
Okay.
They may have the commitment, they may have the closeness, they may talk a lot, they may talk too much. But when it comes to the part of them seeing their partner as their lover and feeling those sexy feelings towards their partner, you actually need to guard that. Being able to talk about the new, scary, exciting, forbidden, actually all helps to keep the spiciness going.
Okay.
When you don't have practice talking about sex, then it becomes like this big elephant in the room. It takes on a life of its own. So basically, by you opening up, you are giving the other person permission to do that.
Yes.
So I became one of the few people that they can talk to about sex.
Yes.
And you can do it too.
Because actually this is actually such a very important topic.
So the teasing, the flirting, the texting, the little acts of kindness and service, these are all very, very important to women, more so than men. We have become, I feel, so independent that we have hardened ourselves that we do not know how there are times to just let down our guard.
Right.
We just soften ourselves.
Right.
A lot of people that I know of who cheat, they don't feel guilty about it because it feels so good.
Right.
Cheating feels so good.
Okay.
Really important to understand how men and women think about sex, because for men it's about physical, for women it's very much about emotional.
Yes.
So the motivation for them to have sex comes from the closeness, comes from the intimacy
And the touches and all that.
Most people, myself included, our favorite thing is the intimacy after sex.
Yes.
The closeness,
so.
the oxytocin, the healing of
The cuddling, Welcome to the show. I'm Dr. Chai Ling, and today we're talking about something most couples avoid but really shouldn't: sex, desire, and intimacy. Our episode is titled What Couples Don't Talk About But Should: Sex, Desire, and Intimacy. Joining me is Dr. Martha Tara Lee, a relationship counselor and clinical sexologist with over a decade of experience helping individuals and couples reignite passion, improve communication, and navigate intimacy struggles. In this conversation, we'll explore why desire fades, how to talk about intimacy without awkwardness, and what couples can do to keep their connections alive, even after years together. Whether you are curious, struggling, or simply looking for fresh perspectives, you'll walk away with valuable insights and practical tips. Let's get real, honest, and maybe a little uncomfortable, but in the best way. Let's begin. So nice having you. I understand your background is in sexual intimacy. How did you start in this role?
I started being fascinated about sexuality because I didn't want to be bad in bed.
I don't want to be bad in bed also.
And then I just along the way improved, and then I realized so many of my friends have difficulties around sex. And that was when I realized that this cannot be, it's not right. And wanted to then start my own practice to help people. So when I started 16 years ago, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know who would come, but I survived. I'm still here. So most of my clients have Vaginismus or unconsummated marriage. That is like the biggest population of clients.
Well, that's actually interesting because, when I first started having sex, I didn't know anything about sex, and I don't believe anybody taught us anything. I think everything I learned was from hearsay or from movies, right?
So I'm the generation where I grew up with no internet. So in the library, you also cannot get sex book. Apparently, it's all locked up in the reference section. So it was really, really very forbidden and strange. So that's why I felt like this is wrong. Something needs to be done. As a woman, I feel like for us, our intimate relationships are the most important things in our lives. Like why you work so hard for. You want to be with your beloveds, and then this area is not talked about. So I felt really upset about it, angry, and I felt like this is a form of justice that needs to be done. So I didn't know nowadays there's this term, social injustice. So that's kind of how I got into it.
But the truth is, even for me, I feel like there's a lot of stigma talking about it. So even when I wasn't sure, I didn't really dare to ask anybody, because you don't want your friends to judge you like, you mean you don't know, So, do you see more women than men, or are they equal?
I would say about equal, actually.
I'm surprised men would come and open up.
They think because I'm a woman, so I'm safe. They make certain projections as well.
Yes.
And they sometimes will say things like, oh, if you are a man, I will not come.
Okay, right. So when they come, what is the most common presenting complaint? Is it that they are not getting enough sex or they are not getting pleasurable sex?
I think both. A lot of times, if it's a lack of sex, sexual desire discrepancy, where their partner tend to have a lower sex drive, then they will come together. But for them, if they come by themselves, usually is erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation or delayed ejaculation. And most of the time they know it's not a medical reason.
Not a medical reason. Okay. So if it's not medical, you think that it's more psychological?
Yeah, a lot of times it's psychological and also the lack of skills because they do not know how to improve. And so like teaching them things like being more in touch with their body, teaching them techniques to learn how to last longer, come faster. Yeah. So
you will actually teach. You're talking about men or women? This one is men.
I do teach and of course, the teaching is not, there's no touch. It's just giving explicit instructions. Yeah.
Oh, that's actually very interesting. And this information, you think it's not easily available anywhere else, right?
I think
there's so much misinformation out there.
There's a lot of information and then they just don't know what to believe. And then they try things here and there. And often it just doesn't work out because they just literally try a bit here and there.
Right.
So you need to keep at it, right? To see improvement. So they just don't know what to believe. Okay. So that's when they come to me.
I'm actually very surprised that men come to you because being a woman, I always imagine that men have no problems with sex. That's the only thing in their minds. I think it was, I was of the impression that only women come to you because women tend to have more issues with sex. Not true.
They have issues. We all have issues. Yeah. So there's a difference between want to and can do lah. You can have a lot of desire, but you may not know how to do it or like what your partner wants. So there's a lot of, I feel I'm doing like some kind of cultural interpretation sometimes.
Yes. Okay. I mean, is there a difference? Do you see for more females, for Chinese, or is it a whole range?
Yeah, I would say about 50-50 Singaporeans and then 50% like expats.
Really?
Expats being like from China, India, 50-50. And all along it's been 50-50, yeah.
Okay.
I would say.
And let me tell you something interesting. I actually have a friend who has told me that she doesn't mind watching CNN while having sex because she has never orgasmed before. Is that a common, and then they just live with it because they think, yeah, it's okay. And, she has already had kids and she's never orgasmed in her life. Is this something that you've heard of or,
Yeah, we call them pre-orgasmic.
Okay.
So it is something that can be learned. There is a belief that because of the way the nerves are, there are some people who are not able to have orgasm. But really, in order to understand why they are not having an orgasm, it's really important to ask more questions. Most of the time, I actually find that they are not able to articulate what they are feeling.
Needs, right, to the men.
Their partner may not be very good at it. Like try for a few seconds and then stop.
Yeah.
How can anyone orgasm like this?
Exactly. So in that case, do you have to counsel both their partners and them or do they have to own self?
Yes, so depending who I can get.
Okay.
Often I prefer that they come together.
Yeah.
And it's also sometimes not just the issue, but the dynamics between them.
Yeah.
The way they relate and communicate with each other.
Yeah.
And from there, yeah.
So, a lot boils down to open communication, isn't it? Because I'm very sure some partners are very unwilling to, get involved, thinking this is a woman's problem. And
yes, there are people like that. However, it really is not a good use of time, resources, or money to actually just send your partner to me and then your partner gets all this knowledge or learns all these things.
And don't use it.
And then don't know how to implement.
Yes.
Because you are not there,
Yes.
So it's just much harder when they have a resistant partner.
And you mentioned unconsummated marriage. Does this even happen nowadays? I mean, as in people get married and they don't want to have sex with each other or they don't know how to have sex
Don't know.
They don't know.
A lot of times they don't know. I have clients with multiple challenges like one has vaginismus and then one has premature ejaculation or like erectile difficulty. Like they cannot keep the erection.
Yeah.
Because when you masturbate, really, it's just like as fast as possible.
Right.
So I always say, like, if you have been running 100 meters your whole life, how are you going to run marathon?
Right.
Just because you want to, it doesn't mean you can last very, very long suddenly.
Right.
Just because you want to. Like, the body just doesn't know how.
So then you have to teach them techniques to actually help. Okay.
So sometimes it's multiple reasons. Not just vaginismus that is unconsummated marriage.
Yeah.
Sometimes they are just like, they really don't know what to do. So they read books, they try to watch porn, but they don't really understand.
Right. And the stimulation is, of course, very different, right?
It's very different when it comes to first-time sex as well.
Yeah.
Because your body is very sensitive.
Yes.
Especially if you have never had anything go into your vagina, never stimulate yourself in certain ways.
Yeah.
So it can be very, very sensitive, and it can get sore, and it can feel awkward, it can feel uncomfortable.
Understand.
Yeah.
Okay. And would you also say that it's actually not just the physical act of sex? Because to be turned on, you probably have to start from building a relationship, trusting the other person, I don't know, a foreplay, talking.
So
sex can't just start in the bedroom when both parties have their clothes off, right?
And then, let's do it. It's
imagine.
a lot of people, they want to have the lead up, the foreplay, the romance.
I think the women wants that more.
Wow, and then the other is like, I don't know how, that's not what I was taught. I don't know, I don't have experience. So they don't know who to ask and where to go. So over time, not immediately, but over time, I now consider myself the village elder. Like back in kampong days, you hear, right? This girl going to get married, go to the village elder to ask all the questions.
Okay.
So yeah, I feel like I'm the village elder.
So you're like the village elder.
Yeah.
So, but one other thing is there are also couples that it doesn't have to be problems with sex, but when we are in a relationship for a long time, the magic goes out after some time and then the couple just don't have sex anymore. Is that also considered a problem, or is this a natural progression?
It's very common.
Yeah.
What a lot of people don't understand is that for most people, the brain starts to change. The brain chemistry starts to change because of the hormones. You have all these hormones that change over time. It's like having caffeine, and then you get used to caffeine, and then you need more caffeine. But in this case, it's like you get like desensitized to having the same person around. So a lot of people develop this mature love, like the honeymoon phase being over, the mature love. So they will say things like, oh, I'm in love with her, but I don't feel in love anymore.
Yeah.
So it's really important that you don't let the fire go out.
Okay.
A lot of people do not realize they need to guard the fire.
Okay.
They may have the commitment, they may have the closeness, they may talk a lot, they may talk too much. But when it comes to the part of them seeing their partner as their lover and feeling those sexy feelings towards their partner, you actually need to guard that.
Can you give us some tips on how to guard that?
Always ask yourself, what is it you're feeling?
Yeah.
I think being aware of what you're feeling is very important. A lot of us just numb ourselves because we are overwhelmed while working, just go through life. We just get into comfort zone. And it's very important to ask yourself what you're feeling every moment. Like if you are starting to feel bored, then maybe you need a bit more variety in the bedroom. If you are feeling curious, it's time to maybe tell your partner what you're curious about. A lot of people don't dare to talk because they're afraid of being shamed and being judged. And they do have negative experiences of their partner saying, oh, where did you get this idea from? Like, oh, you're so perverted. Certain comments like this actually cause the person to shut down.
Yeah.
Because after all, this is a topic that we're very unused to talking about.
Yeah.
And so they become very, very sensitized to any little reaction by their partner.
I see.
So being able to talk about the new, scary, exciting, forbidden, actually all helps to keep the spiciness going.
Okay. So there's a lot of communication.
Communication has to be there.
And I find that it's so strange, right? We work so hard at our work, even exercising. And then when it comes to sex, we don't do any work and we expect the feeling of passion to stay hot forever. That obviously cannot be the case.
Yes, because sex is very much linked to love. And they often assume just because we were madly in love, this feeling hopefully will just last for the rest of our lives without actually putting in any effort to guard the fire. So it is really unrealistic. And I have seen so many of these people, they actually try to do all the things that the textbook will tell us to do, except what I just mentioned, which is they need to guard the fire. They need to be honest with themselves. They need to communicate what they're curious about, what they're scared about, what they fantasize about.
Yeah.
And there's all this like tiptoeing around this topic.
Yeah.
Partly like what you said, because we don't talk about it, it's sensitive, it's taboo. And when you don't have practice talking about sex, then it becomes like this big elephant in the room. It takes on a life of its own. Yeah. So I feel like practicing with people who are not our beloved can be useful. Like for instance, talking with your friends.
Okay.
So many years ago, before I was a sexologist, I asked myself, why is it I talk about everything but sex with my friends? Yeah. And then I asked myself, is this the kind of friendship I want to have?
Yeah.
And then I decided that I'm going to talk about sex.
Yes.
So I started off by telling my friends that I want to be real friends.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about things that are important.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this because it's important. And I was very surprised that pretty much all my friends started to open up to me about their own life without me even pressurizing them.
Yeah.
So basically, by you opening up, you are giving the other person permission to do that.
Yes.
So I became one of the few people that they can talk to about sex.
Yes.
And you can do it too.
Because really, this is actually such a very important topic. But you're right. Amongst my friends, we don't really talk about sex because we are so worried about being judged. And when your friends don't talk about sex, you just presume they must have a wonderful sex life. So I am the one that is having a problem. I don't want to unload it on them. But actually, when you open up, you realize maybe your problems are not so unique. Maybe it is a very common issue that everybody should be talking about.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And we feel less alone, especially as women being more social.
Yeah, that's true. Then what was in relationships where perhaps, things have started to go wrong because the passion is out of the sex life and one partner has started to look for another, maybe some fun outside. Is there a way? Do you help them salvage this kind of thing? Because obviously a new partner is always sexier and it's more passionate.
Of course. So the thing is, you are actually looking, I call it farming it out.
Yes.
So you farm it out, but actually the underlying issue is not really addressed.
Yeah.
The bedroom boredom.
Yeah.
And the spark is not there.
Yeah.
You see, it is maybe even easier for them to do this alternative than to actually be real and honest with their partner.
Okay.
And I much rather that clients were there to go there.
Yeah.
Sometimes they go there with me, they talk to me about it, and then I coach them to basically start to improve things in the bedroom.
I see. Do you get, actually speaking to some of my patients, one of the very common issues I get is some of the women lose interest in sex. And then I think the husbands go and look for fun elsewhere.
Yes. So it takes two to clap. You cannot have this lovely person who is waiting and waiting and waiting. They will actually also end up being very frustrated and maybe even develop like self-esteem issues or depression. So it's really important to understand what is the root cause, and then work with the necessary person. I think a lot of women, once they have their kids, it really affects their sex drive.
Yes.
They are often tired. They are often tired all the time.
Yes.
And it's very difficult when you're tired to think of sex.
Okay.
And sometimes they start to think of their husband as their older child or like the past. Yes. And it shows, when they have duty sex, it shows. And that also cannot be the way.
Yes.
Because they are not having the quality, they are not having the quantity, they're also not having the quality.
That term duty sex, that's actually very, very true. Because I think it's not just in the bedroom. A lot of us, in our relationship, as we change, we view our partners differently. Last time it was like sex symbol, then maybe protector. Then after that, it's really like husband, then the third child. So then it's not so sexy anymore. And then can you imagine if the whole day you're just stressed and suddenly you want to take off your clothes and jump to the bed? That can't happen.
Yes. So there's this term called simmering. Simmering is like, when we pu tang, the water doesn't spill over.
Okay.
The double boil soup.
Yes.
So it's basically keeping it hot.
Simmering. So you want the relationship to be simmering.
Yes. And in order to do that, what I mentioned, like guard the fire, it's really about knowing the timing also.
Okay.
Like they always say, the best time to have foreplay is after you have sex.
Oh, really?
So you're preparing for the next time.
Yes.
Simmering.
Yes.
So the teasing, the flirting, the texting, the little acts of kindness and service, these are all very, very important to women, more so than men. And so they need to understand, I call it customer service. If you have a customer, you just need to figure out this customer and just please this customer.
Okay. So it's actually also knowing the love language, because is it true then for men, they need less of this simmering, and then for women, you need to do more of this simmering, like the touches, the acts of kindness?
In general, yes, in general. Okay. Because I'm just talking about like general male-female differences.
Yeah.
But there are always exceptions where I have had clients who have a more sensitive nature.
Okay.
And they can't just like take off their pants. They need the romance. They need the affection. They need to feel safe and wanted. So there's always the different individual cases.
How about role playing? How does it come into sex? Does that work? Does that spice things up?
Of course.
And do you encourage your clients to do it? And for people who haven't done it, how do they start?
Very, very, very good question.
Yeah.
So think about like what you fantasize about doing or being.
Okay.
And then just agree that you're going to play this role and then just do it. So maybe come up with some lines of what this profession or person might say. And then if you like it, then maybe you want to go to the next step of dressing up.
Really?
Yeah, before you invest in the outfit. See if you like it.
Okay, so like imagine if, let's say, I fantasize about being rescued by a fireman, then I would want my partner to buy a firefighter outfit and then come and say to me,
or at least come with a ladder first.
But then, that again opens up the communication, because, a lot of people are so worried that they'll be shamed, because if I even bring this up, I'm so worried that my partner is going to laugh at me.
So certain behaviors that we display in a relationship out of habit, like rolling your eyes or like whatever, poker, passive aggressive behavior. When it comes to sex, because of this nature of how sensitive it can be, your partner will shut down.
Yeah.
So it's really important to be mindful. We wear many hats, you can be their friend, their wife, their, the mother of the children, and you are also expected to be the, representative of the tribe, and then also the lover.
Yeah.
So we have to be mindful of which hat they want you to play at what time.
And so, obviously it comes to communication. If we are always judgmental of our partners, whatever they say, then they are less likely to tell us their sexual fantasies.
Of course. And then they are more likely to just find the easy way.
Okay.
Instead of talking to you.
Okay.
And like do things behind your back.
Yeah. So you think that having a good sex life actually can improve fidelity in a relationship, because they're less likely to look for things elsewhere?
Yes, but there are also people, depending on their character, they do what they do because they can get away with it.
I see.
A lot of people that I know of, they do not necessarily go for someone who is more pretty. Looks is just one. It has a lot to do with being needy.
I see. Being needed by
being needy, being needed. Because that brings out the protectiveness in them.
Right, I see.
Because what's the point of being around someone who always treats you like a nuisance, pest, not needed, not wanted?
I see.
So I have had women say, if I can do everything myself, why do I need you?
Okay.
If you are not here to make my life better, why are you here?
I see.
In a way, it's kind of true. Because if they want to be your provider and protector, and they are there, give them the chance to do it.
Yeah.
Like we have become, I feel, so independent that we have hardened ourselves that we do not know how there are times to just let down our guard.
Right.
We just soften ourselves.
Right. So you're saying that women nowadays are so independent that the men don't have a role to play in their life?
They feel that they have no role to play. We can give them the role. We have to be receptive to it.
I see. That's very interesting. So do you see more relationships where it's non-monogamous? And will they work out?
I see more of that happening, especially after COVID, because I think more people are just much more honest with themselves. We live in an uncertain world with war happening. There's few wars going on. And with the economy crisis and with certain changes in the political climate. So the world is becoming very, very uncertain. Climate change, another thing. So what's happening is people are just more honest with themselves.
Okay.
Like, I can survive economically, financially independent. Why do I need to be tied to one person if I'm not happy?
Yes.
So by being more honest and true to themselves, so this option, conversation of non-monogamy, is coming up more with my clients. Actually, Asia has a long history of men having multiple wives.
But now the women want to
partners. And there are a lot of women that I know of who are also choosing to cheat. And a lot of people that I know of who cheat, they don't feel guilty about it because it feels so good.
Right.
Cheating feels so good.
Okay. So when they come to you, do they even come to you if it feels so good and they can get away with it?
Yeah, I think it's the people who want change, people who are distressed by their behavior. I think what can happen if you go from one affair to another is you actually become desensitized to the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it actually changes who you are as a person.
Yes.
And maybe that's not what we want to be.
Yes. So are there couples that choose to be non-monogamous but open about it? So it's like an honest relationship, but both of us are not really tied down.
Yeah. So they call it open marriage.
Yeah.
And it can take many different configurations. It can be don't ask, don't tell. We agree to do it, but we just don't tell each other about it. It could be, we must come back and tell everybody like every single detail because it turns us on. Yeah. And then we will have more sex.
Okay.
So it really depends on the couple.
And does this work? I mean, are there instances where it works as long as both parties know exactly what they are going into and they're honest about it?
The thing is, it can work and it can be healthy. The issue is how many people do we know of really have the balls to be that honest?
Yeah.
A lot of us are actually lousy communicators.
We are lousy communicators.
And they want it now and they're not willing to do the work.
Yeah.
And they can cause a lot of harm and pain to their partner.
Yes.
And I think that is the real issue, especially for us Asians.
Yeah. I think in theory it sounds good, but I'm just wondering whether you can go the whole length being that honest, because there'll be a lot of uncomfortable moments.
Yes. So it's about seeing that this is not just about us, whether we stay together. This is about my relationship with myself and us learning along the way.
Right. So I have a patient who has become a good friend, and he went through a divorce like 10 years ago, and then he tells me that he's dating now, but he never wants to get married again. He thinks that it shouldn't be a marriage, but a relationship should be a contract where every year, at the end of the year, they can reevaluate, do I want to stay together or not? Because he thinks if you do it this way, then both couples are more likely to put in effort, because it's like a freelancer, you want to renew the contract.
Yes. However, what happens also is that it makes you feel that the commitment is not really there.
Yes.
And it doesn't give you the permission to like have lapses.
Yeah.
Like for instance,
so you're always on your toes because you're being judged.
If you're sick and there's no commitment, there's no marriage, are they going to abandon you?
Yeah. So I can see, the pros and cons for both, because the other side where you have a lot of commitment, a lot of people say that the partners take them for granted because then, they become a housekeeper, a maid, a mother. And after doing all these for the partners, because they are married, the partners don't try very hard anymore.
So I think a lot of it is the way you think about it.
Yeah.
We create our own hell. So if you think prison, like marriage is a prison, then you will avoid it at all costs. If you think it can create the safety, the cocoon, then by all means.
Right.
So I think it's different strokes for different folks, but I also think it's mainly because we become what we think of.
Okay. I think a lot of people who come and see you are already very proactive because they actually seek you to find a solution. Do you actually recommend people seeing you before there's a problem?
Yes. A lot of people, because they don't want to spend the money, so they're actually coming to me where there's a lot of stress on the verge of a divorce.
Okay. So that's a bit late, isn't it?
Yes, but the thing is, it also transfers a lot of pressure onto me to try to save the relationship.
Okay.
Yes. So if they can come earlier, of course, even better.
Yeah.
I've had clients who unconsummated marriage, like they come to me the next day after their wedding. So honeymoon, everything just stopped, and then just come to me.
Right.
So, okay, it just depends how proactive they want to be. Yes.
And I think, it's so good I'm talking to you because we can get the message out there that people should be seeing you before there is a problem. Maybe not the next day after a marriage, but knowing that a relationship takes work. That there should be regular check-ins, I feel like. Say you are married for 5 years, maybe just to have a talk with you, because sometimes we have small little unhappiness and they're not terrible, but they can be improved.
Yeah, they can fester and it can become poison.
Yes.
So we should have quarterly reviews, just like our annual reviews.
Yes. I read somewhere that in a relationship, contempt is the worst feeling you can get from your partner, where you feel like your partner is very contemptuous about you. Do you feel there are some red flags that our listeners can take, in the relationship, that they feel like, oh, these are red flags, and their relationship needs help?
The first thing is, if you find that you're walking on eggshells around them.
Okay.
If you feel that you are like...
This for both male and female,
yeah,
right?
walking on eggshells, or like avoiding certain conversations, or feeling like you need to regulate their emotion.
Okay.
Then you're not really fully yourself. I think these are already the red flags.
I see.
This is when you really want to talk about the safety of the relationship.
I have patients where they want to make a change, but I don't think their partner is willing to make a change. Can one person come and see you, and can that make a difference?
Yes. I always believe that we are the other 50% of the relationship. So when you change, it may not be obvious, it may not be immediate, but actually when you change, the other person will subconsciously pick up on it and start to change also. It's impossible for it to not be contagious, especially when it's going the more positive way. Like one person becoming more healthy, exercising. You mean the other person just keep watching? The other person will also feel the pressure, or the desire.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
And do kids spell the end of sex life?
Doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be.
But a lot of them, I feel, suffer from already trying to handle too many things.
Yeah.
So before kids, they were already having a very full life. And they didn't really think through when kid came, like what would be the changes that needs to happen.
Yeah.
So they actually take on more, and then they burn out. And then they are irritable, they are tired, they are frustrated, they have no sex drive.
Yeah. So actually they probably have to be more proactive and maybe take out some time for both of them, for themselves, right?
In a lot of relationships, I always hear the man saying things like, oh, I help her. And the woman will feel very, very angry. What help are you talking about? We are co-parenting. We are both working. What is this help? Isn't this like your duty? Both of us should just do it without feeling the need to be praised. So it does happen. So setting the right expectation, because if you didn't train your partner, if you didn't manage the relationship properly from the beginning, you can't expect them to 360 change after kid comes.
Yes. And is it because the love language between a man and a woman is so different?
Yeah, it's the love language, but also our need, right? I've also read literature that women need more than men for the house to be tidy.
For the house to be tidy. Okay, yeah. Okay.
The house is messy, then they don't feel like having sex.
Yeah.
They don't realize what it does to their psyche.
Right. So for all the men out there, remember to tidy the house. Then you'll be getting some sex. And then for the men, what do they need? They're more ready to have sex. They don't have all these needs.
Okay, what happens is biologically we are different.
Yeah.
Because men have more testosterone running their body. They tend to have more sex drive.
Yeah.
And it actually is a fact. So what happens is a lot of times they shame their partner and say there's something wrong with you, you are asexual, you have no sex drive. But in reality, she's in a female body. She's biologically different.
That's
and
true.
So it's really important to understand how men and women think about sex, because for men it's about physical, for women it's very much about emotional.
Yes.
So the motivation for them to have sex comes from the closeness, comes from the intimacy.
And the touches and all that.
The touches actually helps to awaken the body. And also when the nervous system is on the heightened state, they need to calm down before they can ever feel safe and then wanting to have sex. So it's really important to understand where the differences are coming from and then be able to do it in a way that makes sense to your partner, even if it doesn't make sense to you.
Yeah. Because I think one of the main issues for women, men tends to be more easily aroused. And for women, they tend to be less easily aroused, which is why I have friends who say that they've never orgasm, right? But probably arousal can't just start in the bedroom.
Yes, that's why the simmering concept. Start after sex. Immediately start after sex.
So are there any tips that you give to your male patients how to arouse their partner in a day-to-day setting?
Listen to what they say they need.
Okay.
Often they know what they need.
How about is that simple things like holding hands
It's very annoying when they only touch you when they want to have sex.
Right.
Then it makes you feel like you are like a
sex
bird in a
object.
cage. You just feel like you are being used.
Yes.
And so I tell them, to touch each other often.
Okay.
And I educate them about each other's love language. Yeah, so many things.
Yeah, actually, if women open up, men will be so surprised. The number of things that they can do to just arouse a woman. It can be just brushing their fingers, brushing the hair off the face. But men never think of it, right? It is always only in the bedroom, then they will touch the woman. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they just approach it in a very like one-dimensional, blinker, functional kind of way.
Do you think this could also be social media? Because we get so much misinformation out there. We think that sex must be what we see in the movies, where tearing each other's clothes off, and must always end in simultaneous orgasm. That is putting a lot of pressure on us because we don't have the kind of sex we see in the videos.
Yes, so what you're describing, simultaneous, spontaneous sex drive, is basically like what you mentioned, like this is the man's sex drive.
Yeah.
It's like a microwave thing, hot, ready to go. And then women can be described more like oven.
Yeah.
Like they actually need the simmering, they need the foreplay, they need the connection, they need the safety. And because there are so many variables and they try, it can be very, very frustrating. Despite all their efforts, it still doesn't happen. But then it also comes back to the pressure. Like, oh, you mean you do all these things just for this?
Yeah. Yeah. And I wish I had a friend like you, a village elder. Did you improve all your friends' sex drive by opening up? And do you dispense sex advice to all of them during dinners?
No, I don't. Same as you, we don't want to go around working when we are not paid. I don't want to, sometimes it becomes unsolicited advice and annoying as well, right?
Yeah.
So, what I noticed is that they know that they are safe to talk about it with me and that I'm not going to judge.
Yeah.
And over time, my friends become more open.
Okay, so moving on. Okay, I have many different friends who has confided different problems. One of them is basically she married her husband when they were young, but before they had sex because they were staunch Christians. So they only had sex after they got married. But I think they are sexually incompatible in the sense that after 2 kids, they literally have not had sex for the last 10 years or so. Do you have patients like this?
There's many. I have many clients who have difficulties with sex because of inexperience. They chose to keep their virginity until marriage. And that's why the unconsummated marriage and the vaginismus. We may not really think about it when we get married to our first boyfriend, first partner, that this is going to be the same person I'm going to have sex for the rest of my life. And how are you going to get the skills if you have the same person for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
So I do run workshops, sex technique workshops, but we just practice on like carrots or like toys. And I also have like a recorded videos where now I'm explaining to clients the techniques. So I feel like no matter how good you think you are in the bedroom, your partner is the best judge.
Okay.
And whether they think it's good depends on their preference as well. But there's no harm in trying new things, new techniques, and how you're going to learn it from.
Yeah.
Because previously when I was new to sex and I read sex books, because I didn't even know anatomy.
Yeah.
So I was very, very confused. I don't know what is, you want me to touch what, lick what, suck what, I don't know. Yeah. So that's why the passion to run these sex technique workshops.
Okay, so you actually have a sex technique workshop. Yeah, that's interesting.
I have them, and then I also have them recorded.
Oh, nice. Okay. So would you recommend somebody to actually sleep with their partner before marriage?
I think whether you choose to have sex before marriage is a personal decision.
Yeah.
And I have had clients come in to discuss this decision.
Because you need to test drive the car before you buy the car, no?
Yes. So at the point I have to ask them like how much they value this and what it means to them.
Okay. Right. So it really boils down to their values and
a personal decision. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, actually the sex technique workshop is very interesting because over COVID, me and my friend actually signed up for a blowjob workshop as a dare. So we all, like 5 girls, went for this blowjob workshop thinking, what can they teach us? It's just, we thought it was a laugh. But we learned so much from it. And all of us realized, actually none of us is doing it very right. So, it's actually quite interesting. Yeah. At the end, we did get a cert, so we're very certified now. So off the camera just now, the girls were so excited about your sex technique workshop. Is it a mixed workshop where guys and girls go together, or is there one for the guys where you teach the guys technique and one for the girls?
Okay, I used to run them separately, but I really like to run them together now.
So do you have to come with your partner, or if you are single, can you come alone?
Yes, you can come with your partner, you can come by yourself. So I have like the mixed gender ones. I understand that women may feel more comfortable with women.
Yeah. I think one issue is I do have single friends who wants to improve their sex technique. So obviously after coming to this workshop, who can they practice on? They have no partner to practice on.
Find one.
Find one. Find a good friend. Okay. Yeah. One other question from all the girls behind the camera just now was, how long does a guy actually have to last? There is this misconception in all these pornography that men have to last for hours and hours to be a real man. Yeah.
And that gives a lot of pressure.
Yeah, that gives a lot
But
of
you
pressure.
have to understand, these are what I call the sex Olympians.
Yeah.
They're doing it for a living. They're probably on drugs and all that.
Yeah. And guys also probably need to understand, some girls don't really want them to last forever. They have things to do, like to wash clothes, clean the windows. So it's just like, if you last forever, then all these chores won't get done, right? The other issue really is women. Do women have to orgasm to enjoy sex? You watch all these shows, Harry, Met, Sally, and then the women have to orgasm loudly. But it just sometimes doesn't happen for women.
Yeah, so coming back to what you were saying, I think most guys actually last about 5 minutes. With penis in vagina penetration or anus. But usually it's about 5 minutes.
Okay, 5 minutes.
Anything more than that actually can start to be painful depending on the vaginal secretion.
I see.
That's where lubricants can come in.
Okay.
Yeah. But
so guys who hope to do a 1 hour marathon, that's not realistic because it can be uncomfortable for the women.
Yeah, they can try. And I've had partners who can go for at least like half an hour.
Oh my God.
And it's just not my thing.
Yes. I think you also need to speak to your partner. Maybe your partner doesn't actually want it that long. I mean, most guys think that the longer they last, the better it is for the women. But you're right, the dryness comes in and it actually becomes painful.
And then it becomes a mind over body thing where it's like, okay, just come. Or
let's get it over with.
I'm telling my body, relax. Yeah. But actually going into pain.
Yes.
So a lot of people, they're just at the age, maybe I can just put up with it. Yeah. But actually this becomes very, very bad for us because the body can actually start to shut down.
And I think that's where you need to have a conversation and talk about it with the guys, that it's okay to have sex that's just 5-10 minutes, that's enjoyable.
And it's also okay to say the moment you have pain, stop.
Okay, for the woman to, because I think a lot of women are very accommodating. Even when they are in pain, they don't actually tell the partner because they start thinking that it's their problem, but sometimes it's their partner's job to arouse them.
Yeah, so this is why I have clients, they have secondary vaginismus, which is, it happens, the vagina shuts down because of the anticipation of pain.
So can you just describe vaginismus for our listeners? It's pain on
so it's a psychological fear of pain, which causes the vagina to shut down, making penetration difficult or impossible. So it is at the entrance of the vagina. It has nothing to do with the inside, the ovaries, nothing. It's very much at the entrance. So this has to do with anticipation of pain. So it happens with a lot of my virgin clients. But then I also have a handful of clients who have secondary vaginismus.
So bad experience.
Developed after trauma, it developed after many like series of painful episodes.
Okay. And what is the best way to treat a condition like this?
I have different ways of working with clients on it. The one that I find is most common online is just use dilators.
Okay.
But I find that that's not helpful because you are just like causing yourself potentially more pain.
More pain because the problem is the fear of pain, right? Yeah.
So it's really important to put into the body positive experiences of no pain and also pleasure.
Okay.
And to do it progressively, like you start off with small and then it's not very painful and it's manageable. And then you start to come into listening to your body and working with your body rather than think your body is against you.
Okay. And maybe it's also knowing that it's okay to refuse a guy and it doesn't always have to end with penetration. It can just be foreplay. And I think that opens up, relaxes the woman as well.
Yeah, I think the feeling of being wanted and unconditionally accepted is very, very important.
Yeah. I think a lot of guys, they're very goal-orientated and they think that it must end with penetration and they must make you orgasm and then they must orgasm just like the movies, then they have scored a point.
Yes.
But actually, that's not real intimacy. The enjoyment actually sometimes can be just foreplay, can be holding hands. It doesn't even have to end with penetration.
Yes, and in the being.
Yeah.
It's very hard for them to understand because of the way the male brain is different from the female brain.
Yeah.
And this is like a scientifically researched things, where they are very much goal-oriented.
Yeah.
And their sexuality is very much penis-centric. Heart ready to go. That's it. Simple.
Yeah.
And they tend to be one single focus.
Yeah.
And they would say things like, oh, what's the point of doing this if we're not going to orgasm? What's the point of doing this if I don't get to come? If I don't get to come, as if you are the center of the universe.
Yeah.
So you're right. Women do not think of orgasm as the most important thing.
Yeah.
I think most people, myself included, our favorite thing is the intimacy after sex.
Yes.
The closeness, the oxytocin, the healing of
the cuddling. Yeah, that's true. So a lot of people, a lot of guys may think that right after sex and they have orgasm, the job is done and that's the end. But actually for women, it's the beginning. So the worst thing that can happen after sex is for the guy to roll over, turn on soccer and watch, watch soccer or fall asleep, because then you miss out on a lot of the things that the women enjoy, which is the intimacy, the talking, the cuddling.
Contrary to what people think, like women are actually much more capable of having multiple orgasms than men.
Yeah.
They have a refractory period, they need to rest.
Right.
But we can have multiple orgasms.
Okay. So as long as the men attend your sex technique workshop and know what to do.
So this is why they say ladies first. So a lot of times they're afraid they cannot last long enough.
Yes.
So they may give their partner at least one orgasm or two or multiple.
Yeah.
And then before they have penetration.
And I think also a lot of guys, they're worried about being seen as a failure if they do not have an erection. And I think that's why, does that put pressure on the guys as they get older and they get problems with erectile dysfunction?
Yes. So this is where the first thing I ask them to do is go for medical checkup, rule out the physical part. And then I'll teach them exercises, I'll talk with them. And basically, often the mind is in the way.
Right.
What they tell themselves may cause the erection to be lost. So they might say things like, "Oh, you better not lose it," to themselves. Yeah. I mean, you're so like rough with yourself.
Yeah.
Or like things like, "Don't be a loser," or "Okay, today might be the day where she will leave you."
Oh my goodness. Do guys actually think that?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I never knew this is the things that go through their
So it's scary, for them. And they
always think the only thing in their head is what they're going to eat for the next meal. Oh, okay. So, the sex drive is so different between men and women. I presume when we are younger, say in our 20s, male and female probably have high sex drive. Am I right?
Higher.
Yes. Then as we get older, career 30s, 40s, does it start to differ with the men staying quite high and women dropping a little bit because our bodies go through too much changes?
I think kids play a big one. But also actually, a lot of men I spoke to, it's not that they don't want to masturbate, they don't have a drive. It's that they have other things to focus on or think of or work, stress. So depending on what's going on in their life, they may not exercise on it even though they feel like it.
So stress really kills sex drive. Right?
Mm-hmm. But for some of them, masturbation is a way to deal with their stress.
Okay.
So then masturbation becomes an escape, a distraction, a way to sleep better, a way to go back to sleep. And so they may not necessarily be masturbating because their body needs it. They masturbate just out of habit.
Okay.
And I often tell my clients to not do that.
Yeah.
Because they are actually like forcing their body to ejaculate.
And desensitizing themselves.
Yeah, and making themselves depleted,
Yeah.
So they may have less energy for other things in their life, including sex with their partner.
Right.
I have clients who just masturbate, happy masturbating, but don't have sex with their wife.
Oh.
Because it's easier to masturbate than to have sex.
Right. Yeah. And I think when you do that so often, you're going to desensitize yourself because how many times can you actually orgasm, right?
So you can be in a relationship and then both feel very lonely because you are not reaching out to each other.
Okay.
I think that's the real problem.
Yeah. Then how about as women, I wrote a book on menopause. So, I have a lot of patients that are undergoing menopause. Does menopause have to mean the end of sex drive for women?
No. And they can go to you for help. Do you work with them with the
Well,
charity?
Of course, Aesthetically, we do. I also work with them, HRT. Previously, we actually had a very interesting machine. It's called the Viviv. It actually does tightening of the vaginal
they
canal.
also have the Mona Lisa, right?
Yeah, so all these are various things that women can do. But I always find that these are all symptomatic. Because if you don't have a partner that is communicative, able to arouse you, all these are symptomatic. You know? Yeah, you can have all the functioning machinery, but for women, it all starts mentally. So, you can do the Viviv, the Mona Lisa, tighten up the vaginal canal. You can look very good. You can have HRT, have all the hormones replaced, but you're not aroused.
Yeah.
And they still think it's their problem.
No. Because it has to do with the dynamics of the relationship as well. A lot of women are actually in unhealthy, unhappy relationships. They just put up with it because of various reasons, finances, kids.
Yeah.
So this is where counseling can come in.
So what is a normal sex frequency?
Yes, so there's no normal sex frequency, but a lot of couples try to have sex at least once every week or once every other week.
And is this from the beginning of the relationship to the end of time, or is this number going to change with time?
Yes, so this changes to maybe once every 2 weeks, especially with my clients who are been together longer.
Okay.
So this is not like some scientific, but this is just something that I noticed. Most couples have it once a week because of all the other obligations. Yeah. So it's not really because they don't want to, because time, opportunity,
understand.
And all that.
But I mean, if you can make time out to watch TV, make time out to take care of your bodies, then certainly this could be something that you can also make time out for.
Prioritize.
Yeah.
So I have female clients who feel that it's easier for them if it's planned, if it's scheduled, because they can do all the things around it to prepare themselves.
Okay. Is there a timing in the day where you think it's most conducive for sex that you tell your patients?
Yes. It's very interesting. Women like sex in the evening and men like sex in the morning.
Why is that so?
For men, it's like, it's a good start to the day.
Start the day strong.
Yeah, really. And then for the women, it's, it's because everything's done, I'm relaxed.
Yes.
But what can happen is sometimes they're too tired.
Yeah.
And when you're too tired, you're not enjoying, you're having resentment, you're doing duty sex. It's not good.
Okay. Yeah. So you do advise your clients to actually maybe plan a day. Yeah.
And also take turns. Like, maybe sometimes you're away, sometimes they're away. Maybe sometimes morning, sometimes night. Maybe sometimes fast, sometimes slow. Maybe sometimes calm, sometimes don't calm. Maybe sometimes inside, sometimes outside,
Okay.
Like,
there's not one perfect way. It doesn't have to hit a goal. It doesn't have to last 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It doesn't have to orgasm.
Especially if you're in a long-term relationship, you need to have all this variety. Otherwise, it becomes very routine and it's just machinery at work,
Yeah, it's true. And have you heard of Tantric sex? And what is that about? I mean, a lot of couples tell me they're going to all these places to learn all these tantric sex workshops. Does it help?
There's a saying.
Yeah.
Women don't need to attend tantra classes because we're naturally gifted.
Really?
We are naturally able to understand a lot of these things, like drop into our body, drop into our heart, and be in the moment. Like a lot of us are already naturally good at it.
Okay.
It's the men who need it.
Oh, okay.
So as we get older, there may be a fear of slowing down because slowing down means losing that erection. But maybe when they are older and more less of their hormonal rage and they are finally ready to listen what women want, then maybe they are ready for been there, done that, try everything. Tantra is definitely one of the ways.
Okay.
So you can call it mindful sex, but it's really not as difficult as people think.
Okay.
Like synchronized breathing.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't actually have to be penetration. It can just be breathing, holding hands, looking at each other's
playing
eyes.
with the energy.
Okay.
Visualizing the energy moving through the body.
Nice.
Whether it's you talk and then you visualize or you breathe together. But it can be very, very magical, and I wish more people knew about.
Is that something you conduct as well?
Yeah, I do teach it. Nowadays, what's happened is the ancient way of Tantra, I think a lot of it is lost. So a lot of what is being taught in this and that retreat is really what they call Neo Tantra.
I see.
And so I do teach the concepts of it. And one of my books, Orgasmic Yoga, has the principles of Tantra inside it. Okay. Although I don't call it Tantra.
Yes.
So basically it's just play with breath, sound, movement, touch, intention, pelvic floor squeezes. So these are the tools that you will pretty much learn in every single Tantra workshop. So after being to a few, it's a bit like,
okay,
for me, it's a bit like,
okay.
What's new?
So for all your workshops, is it a one-off thing or do we have to commit like, once a week for 4 weeks?
So I have one-off workshops and I have many different kinds of things that I can offer.
Okay.
What has been very challenging is how do I get the numbers?
Okay.
Because it's easy, bread and butter, blowjob workshop, which I have been doing like for 15 years and I'm just like, But like, if I want to do something truly meaningful, like with the couples, it's hard. It's hard because often the woman will want to attend and then the guy, no way.
Right. Because obviously, as you said, it's better to go as a couple, right? Yeah. Okay.
So I'm open to running private workshops.
Yes.
But in my workshops, contrary to what they think, I don't allow them to have sex in front of me. There's no nudity.
Right. It's just learning the concepts.
And a lot of guys will come email me and say, I want to learn how to finger her, I want to massage her, I want to get her to come. And then they think because I'm a woman, they can do it on me.
And oh really? Dear.
It's like it's a bit offensive.
So they actually think of it as a very mechanical thing, like give me the steps, put in the index finger and move to the left, that's how then you're going to give them a prescriptive.
So a lot of them focus on the technique rather than the presence.
Yeah. Whereas you are looking at it from, a more holistic mindset.
I feel like it's okay, you're a beginner, the techniques can help you. But I think sometimes I have clients who get there, where they maybe they have premature ejaculation. And then they overcome premature ejaculation and then they'll be like, okay, been there, done that, boring, what's next? That's when they are really ready to listen. What does a woman really want?
Yeah.
So I give them what they want. They want to learn techniques, I teach them technique. They want to overcome premature ejaculation, fine. But the thing is, hopefully they get to that level where they realize, I'm ready for more.
Yeah.
I'm ready to really listen now.
Yes.
Sometimes they need to just get what they want, so that they can get out of their own way.
Yeah.
So you okay also.
Yeah, so you teach them what they want first, and then when they see the bigger picture and they're more enlightened, then you teach them what they really need. And
I hope so. So what I do is I don't give up. I still plant seeds.
Yeah.
I still try to, tell them those messages. You think this is important to your wife? Yeah. If I last longer, she will be happier, and then she will want sex more.
Yeah.
I'm like, really?
Yeah. I think a lot of us want to grab our partners and attend your workshop, but it's all about a stigma because which men wants to admit that they need help, right? They all want to think that they're masters of the universe and they know everything. So I think that is one hurdle to overcome.
I think it's also about being vulnerable and opening up to someone.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I have so many videos on YouTube, my own videos, like, even though they're not very well done, I still try.
Yes.
Because
it's all about the content.
Yes, when I first started, I would have clients come in and they would show me the tulan face, They would be very pissed off. They would glare at me.
Okay.
They look like they hate me or they want to kill me. And they just didn't want to be there.
Okay.
But after I did those videos, different.
Okay.
They said, we watched many of your videos. We decided to come to you.
Right.
So it's different. You see, it's
more open.
So doing that extra effort actually has helped them.
Right. Okay. So if there's one takeaway you can give to men and then to women on how to improve their relationships, what would it be if you're talking to a male client?
I would say, talk about how you feel.
Yeah, I think so. For men, they almost never talk about how they feel.
Never.
Vulnerability.
And then the woman who wants the closeness and the intimacy doesn't get it. And then she's guessing what he's thinking and feeling.
Yeah.
And that's hell for her.
It's hell. Yeah.
So men should always talk about how they feel.
And actually women appreciate it when men talk about how they feel and the women know that they are vulnerable. We don't expect the men to be a superhero. And it's nice to know that they are sometimes unsure.
Because they have this poker face, there's no way for us to understand what they're thinking and feeling. And they don't realize we don't know. And we're scared and we're nervous. And it's like this whole different story. That's not what's happening. And then we say harsh things and then this poker face and then we think he hasn't heard or doesn't understand or don't care. But in reality, he's very, very hurt.
Yeah.
He's absorbed everything.
Yeah.
And now it's killing him, you know? And you know what I'm talking about.
And how about women? If women come to you, what is one key takeaway you would give them?
Never ever shout.
Never ever shout.
I know I sound so hypocritical.
Yeah.
But So many of my clients, it's just a repeat. They always say when the partner shouts, she's crazy.
Yeah.
When she shouts, they cannot hear anymore.
Yeah.
When she shouts, she's at the fault. And so they just shut down. So it's actually worse. And for some reason, I don't know why, shouting can be a form of expression and passion and, it's over and done with. But somehow, for some reason, for a lot of men that I have worked with, it's actually traumatic for them.
Yeah.
It's traumatic. It's not even a request. It's actually like minus.
Yeah.
So I have this advice.
Actually, that's great advice. I mean, I remember as a kid when my parents shouted, it was very traumatic for me as well, hearing people shout. But then as you grow up as a woman, you're right. We sound hypocritical because we shout sometimes because we are frustrated, but we don't see what other people see when they look at us because it does make us look kind of crazy. And I think the men just shut off when you start shouting. Then you try to shout louder.
Yes, because in their logical mind, they already decided we are crazy and we are not.
Yeah. But it does make you look crazy when you shout, so you can't get the message across. Well, thank you for the great advice. Thank you to be here on the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And that's a wrap on this eye-opening episode, What Couples Don't Talk About But Should: Sex, Desire, and Intimacy. A huge thank you to Dr. Martha Tara Lee for sharing her expertise and breaking down some of the toughest yet most essential conversations couples need to have. If this episode inspired you, opened up your mind, or made you rethink how you approach intimacy in your relationships, subscribe, like, and share this episode. You never know whose life you might transform with a simple conversation. To learn more about Dr. Lee's work, check out the links in the description or explore her books on relationships and sexual wellness. I'm Dr. Chai Ling, reminding you that real intimacy begins with open communication. Until next time, love deeply, speak honestly, and never stop exploring your connection. See you soon.